Welcome to Bitrix24 Live. My name's Sam Connor, Sales Engineer here at Bitrix24 Gold Partners Interface. We're based in the UK and we also have offices in New York and in Dubai. And with me today I also have our project manager Danielle.
Hello everyone. Sam's going to go through the range of services that we have to start with.
Yep, so here at Interface we offer a full range of services starting with pre-sales support, so we can go through your requirements and provide a bespoke demonstration of Bitrix for you, and we can also then provide help with implementation and licensing and any customizations that you require, and we can also help with training you on Bitrix and providing ongoing support.
Okay, so if you've got any questions whilst we're on this session, if you want to write them in the comments box and we'll come back to those as we go along. We have had some questions during the week, so we'll start with those first.
Yeah, so recently we've had a question come in around, I want to use telephony. How do I rent a number from Bitrix? And how do I also record those calls? So we'll have a look at that first on the session today. So what we can do is, first of all, we can go into our telephony module in Bitrix. And there are different ways that we can choose our telephony options, but one way, which the question is asking, is around renting a number. So to rent a number, first of all, we can select the country that we are wanting to rent that number for. So there's a huge list of numbers we can use. And then you can choose that type of number as well. So if you want a specific type of number here, we can then select that from the system. And then we can also choose a region that we want to have that number rented for. And you can see the cost, it's around $6 per month, and inbound calls are included, and then you're charged per minute on any outbound calls. So you can then rent that number in the system, and then once you've rented that number, you can then configure the settings for that in your Bitrix system. So if we go into our number here, as the question was asking around recording in the system, we have the option here to save recordings of those calls, and you also have the option as well to play a warning message. So if your clients are calling up, you can warn them that their call will be recorded in the Bitrix system. And what we can then see is all of those recordings as well. So maybe as a manager want to be able to go into those calls and see how they performed. So we have the call details tab here, and what we can do is we could filter through those in the system, and we can then search and find all of those calls that have been recorded in Bitrix. So we can play those back, and you can also export this information. So it might be useful to have all of those call details, and you can then export that from Bitrix. And with the telephony, if you've rented those numbers, we can also associate those calls to the contact in the CRM system. So we could also go into the CRM, and if we go into our contact database, what we can do is we can associate those calls to the relevant contact. So we can see in here any of those calls, so we can also play those calls back in the system as well.
Okay, so we've got a question about marketing, so how to send marketing campaigns to specific clients rather than just mass mailing. So the way to do this, so you've got the CRM marketing on the left hand side, so if you go into there, and you've got this segment section, so if you click in segments you can then create your segment from here. So if you head over to create segment, you've then got these different options. So say you want to create a segment from leads, so you click into here, you can then filter by leads created on a certain date. So you might want to send a campaign to those created this month or in the last 7 days. You can filter by source as well. So you might want to only send to those who are the sources a call. And once you've selected whatever you want to be in your segment, you search, and you'll see that the amount of emails that have been found will come up here. You've got phone and messenger too, so you can take a look at the emails if you want to before you create this segment. But another way of doing this rather than just using the filter is to have a custom list here. So if you click into custom recipient list, you can just copy and paste a list of emails into here. So if they're a list that you've already got, just copy and paste it into here and import, and that will create a segment then. So once you've created your segment, if you save that, you can then go into campaigns, and this will start a new campaign where you can use the segment you've just created. So go to create campaign and email campaign. Then you can select the template that you want to use, and once you've selected your template, you'll see in this recipient segment section you can select whichever segment you want to. So you've got recent items, popular, my segments. Select any of those. Once you've selected, you can change the subject and the body of the message, and you save that, and that will create a new campaign in the system. So that's a good way of sending just to people and leads that you want to send to rather than mass mailing.
Okay, so we've had a question come in on the YouTube channels. Can we validate fields in workflows? So as an example, in a leave request, can you validate so a date cannot be less than from a specific date? So I'm not sure which license you have for your Bitrix system. But if we go into the leave request as an example, what we can do is just let that load.
Sorry, we've got a bit of a technical issue. It's just not loading at the moment. It's just a little bit slow.
We'll just wait for that to load. Just while we wait for that to load, just load up our contact details. So if you do have any questions, or if you're looking for a demonstration of Bitrix, a bespoke demonstration, just email the addresses, so sales@interface.com, and we can be in touch to help you. So let's see if we have.
We'll maybe come back to that question. The system's just a little bit slow at the moment, so if we move on to the next question.
We'll come back to that question in a second. We have had some of the questions come in during the week. One question being, how can I bring my team together for communication and collaboration in Bitrix? And that's something Bitrix is very useful for, especially during these times for remote working. We want to use the system for collaboration and communications. First of all, one way we can do this is within our company structure. So we'll just let that reload. Right, we'll just try and reload that. Sorry about this.
Just whilst having this issue with the page loading, someone has asked earlier in the week about customizing the login page on a cloud system. So You can't customize and have a branded login page on the cloud system, but on the on-premise you can. So you could have your own sort of background colour and a logo. But like I say, that's just on the on-premise for the branded login page.
Yes, and with the on-premise, we have our implementation team. So if you need help with installation, we can install the on-premise onto your server and provide support with any on-premise implementations. So let's just see now if we can go back to our Bitrix system. Okay, there we go. So we'll just continue on the question around chats and collaboration in Bitrix. So first of all, what we can do is we can build out our company structure. So this is where we can build our departments, and we can then assign our users into their relevant departments. And what we can do is we can hover over any of our colleagues here. If we want to communicate, we could send them a message. So we can have an instant chat with our team and our colleagues. We can also do video calling. So you may want to have a video call with your colleague as well. And that can be with a single user, or you could have a group call. So I might want to invite in other colleagues into this chat. So we can add other users as well into the chat. So it's an internal communication platform, and we can also do video calling as well. And in the new updates that Bitrix are releasing, that's going to go up to 24 users on a video call, so we can bring all of our team together. Another way that we can communicate in the system is by using the activity stream. So we can send out messages using the activity stream here. So I might want to just communicate with my team. And we could also upload any documents as well. So if there's a document that we need to send out with the message, we can send and attach those as well. And from the activity stream here, we can then decide who we want to send that message out to. So it might be to an individual user who will receive that message in their activity stream, or it might be to a particular department or all of our users in Bitrix. So we can then decide exactly where that message is going to be sent out to. And we'll just go back now to that earlier question around being able to validate fields in workflows. So I think this would depend on the license that you have on Bitrix. I believe you would need an on-premise edition for this. But they mentioned the leave approval process. So as standard, you have your fields in the system here, and you can configure these fields. So if you wanted to change what fields are in the actual leave approval process, you can customize that. But if you want to have a specific validation rule in there, you would have to customize the workflow designer here, and that would need to use the on-premise edition, where we could then customize the fields inside the system.
Okay, so we had a question earlier in the week about importing leads into the CRM. So it's a fairly simple process. So you'd go into the CRM and then into leads. On the right hand side here, you've got this settings cog. So if you hit import, you can then choose your file, which needs to be in CSV format. Once you've chosen the file, you select the column separator, which is usually semicolon or tab or comma. Once you hit next, you'll then be presented with a list of the fields that are in the system, and you just have to make sure that those are matched with the fields that are on your CSV file. So you will need to make sure that the custom fields in your file are already in the system as well, before you import your leads. And that's the same for contacts, for example, as well. So you've got the cog here, so you can import custom CSV, and it's the same process. So it's a quick, easy way to import, and it will also let you know if there have been any errors in the import and what the error has come from as well. Okay.
So another question we've had come in is regarding projects in Bitrix. So can I change the permissions of users once a project has actually gone live? So yes, you can change the permissions inside a project. I think first of all, just to explain, there are different types of projects in Bitrix. So we can have an open project where anybody in the Bitrix system can access that project. So it's an open project for collaborating on. You can also have a private project, and this is where the project manager will invite in specific users who are associated and going to be working on that project. So it's a secure, closed environment. And we can also have external projects. So this is a great tool if we want to invite our clients or any third parties into any particular projects that you're collaborating and working on with them. You can use an external project to bring those people into Bitrix, and you have an unlimited number of external users on a paid cloud system or the on-premise edition. Now if we go into a project, the question was around if you can change permission levels once a project has been opened and you're live on that system. And you can do so. Here is the project manager in the system. What I can do is I can first of all set permission levels on the different areas of the project. So for example, you might want to change the permission levels on the tasks that are being managed in the project. So we can see here the different levels of permissions, and as the project manager here, I can change the level of permission and update that in the project itself. And you can also change the actual people who are involved in the project and any, say, project assistants. So you can actually change the hierarchy as well on the project level here. And we could also, if we needed to, say, change the owner of the project, you can also do that in the settings as well.
Okay, we've got a question from the YouTube channel about custom fields within leads. So the question is, if you create a custom field on a lead and convert it to a deal, will the information be stored? So yes, it will be stored on the deal that you've generated from the lead. Once you have generated the lead into a deal, you may find that the field is hidden. So if the field is hidden and you can't see it, if you click into the deal and you, in any of the sections you want the field to appear in, you would just select field and you could scroll to find that field and make sure that it's then shown in the deal as well. So yes, you can pass information from leads to deals and the information will still be in the system for you.
Okay, and another question we've had is around permissions on folders. So in the Drive module, can we set permissions for users and also external clients on any folders that we have? So yes, we can. So in the Drive module, we have the My Drive area, so that's your personal drive area inside Bitrix where you can store your own documents and files. And we also have the Company Drive, which is the document library area for all of your documents across the business. And on any of those files and folders, what we can do is we can grant different levels of permissions. So in here right now, the management department have full access to this folder, and this then links back into the company structure that we looked at earlier on. So what we can do is we can then add additional departments or users who we can then grant access to that particular folder. So it may be that we want HR to have access to that folder, so we can select that department. But then we can also select what level of permission we grant them on that folder. So for example, it may be full access, or we might just give them read access so they can read through those documents in that folder. And that's exactly the same also on our individual files, so we can grant access on those. And as we just looked at, maybe inviting external clients into those projects, so you can also set permission levels on any external users for what files and folders they can access as well. So yes, it is possible to add permissions to those drives.
Okay, we had a question about leave requests. So Sam did touch upon this earlier, but within the activity stream, so this is in terms of how you can submit a leave request. So in the activity stream, under more, we have workflows here, and you've got the leave approval process here. So as Sam went through a little bit earlier, you just click on here and you can put in your start date, so whenever you want the leave to be, the end date. You can set your absence type, so you might want to do a business trip, and then you can put any information in here, add a file if you want. You can also select an approver, and then you just send, and your supervisor or person responsible for that leave approval will then get a notification to say that an approval is being submitted, and you'll be notified once it's being dealt with as well.
Yep.
I noticed we've got a question on YouTube about if Bitrix can be used to manage OKRs. We're not sure what OKR is referring to, but if you let us know in the chat, we'll hopefully be able to answer that.
Yeah. We've had another question on YouTube around, can we create business processes for projects? So I might just need some more detail on what process you're looking for, but what you can do inside a project is we have what we call lists, where we can capture data and information, and we can run business processes on those lists. So back inside that project we've just been looking at, if we go into our lists here, so one thing we can do is you can then store information in here, such as say expenses. So it may be on a project we have expenses that are submitted, and then on the list itself we do have the option to build out business processes. So I can come into a particular process here, and then we have, very similar to in the leave approval where we have the business process, you have on that list the ability to build out a business process. We have all of the controls on the right hand side here, so we can then add these into that business process to build out, and that's attached to the list which is inside the project. And if there is a particular process you're looking for, if you can send us those details, we can have a look at that for you.
Okay, so we had a question about segmenting clients into different categories. So if you're within the CRM, you can create filters which segment your clients and contacts and companies into categories. So that might work for you. So for example, within contacts, you can go into the filter here. You can fill out these fields to create a filter. So this will bring out a list of contacts based on what you've filtered on. So you can filter customer type, for example, client status. So once you've searched for this and created this filter, you can also save this. So if I were to hit save there, you can create a name for that filter. We'll just call this one test. And that in effect creates a category of your contacts, or the same in companies, same in leads. So yeah, you can use the filter to create those categories.
Had a question around, can I edit a list item using task automation after the task was created from a workflow automation? not sure on the actual workflow automation. So if Owen can just provide your contact details to sales@interface.com, we can be in touch to see how that would be managed in the system for you. We've had some more questions, so around this time on the mailbox integration in Bitrix. So how do I grant other users access to those mailboxes? So it may be that you have a sales mailbox and you need your team to have access to that and to process those emails. So what we can do is if we go into our mailbox in Bitrix, so in here we have one set up where we've integrated our mailbox. You can integrate multiple mailboxes, and depending on what license you have, there are limits to the number of mailboxes that you can integrate onto your system. So that's how we can integrate mailboxes. And what we can then do is we can go into the settings on the mailbox, and inside here we can then use the access rights here, so we can give other users on the system access to that mailbox, and then they have access and they can then go through and manage those emails in the inbox as well. So we'll just put back up our contact details just so you can see those for a second. If you do have any questions, or if you're looking to have a demonstration of Bitrix and to evaluate your requirements, you can email sales@interface.com and we can be in touch. Okay. Another question we've had, and we get this quite a lot, it's quite a common question we get, is around the permissions inside the CRM system. So can I set permissions for my sales team? And yes, you can, and it's a very useful feature if you want to have all of your sales team, say if they're responsible for particular leads or deals and you only want them to have access to that information, we can set permissions inside the CRM system. So if we go into the CRM, so first of all in the system here we can see who is responsible for all of those leads. So we're as an administrator in the system here, so we have full access. But it may be that, for example, we only want John Smith to see John Smith's leads in the system. So what we can do is we can go into the settings, and we have an area here called access permissions, and this is where we can then build out our permission structure for all of our roles in the system. Okay, so the important thing to remember here is this is based on the role. So each user on Bitrix can be assigned a role on the system. So say for example we have administrator. If I go into the administrator role here, we can then set the permission rights for all of those different areas of the CRM. So as we can see the contacts, companies, deals and leads, and you can even drill down to particular stages of those deals and leads. And we can then, across the top, we can set here the actual permission level on that entity. So it may be that our sales team are responsible for particular contacts inside the system. So we may want to set personal access, so then they can't view other members' contacts as well. And you can then build out that permission structure throughout the CRM for all of your sales team.
Okay, so I had a question earlier in the week about editing tasks and who has permission to edit tasks. So as standard, the administrators of a system and the creator of a task can edit the task. So if you want to change who can edit tasks, and their tasks are assigned to work groups, if you are inside of a work group, you can go over to actions within that work group and access permissions. And if you scroll down, you've got the option to select who can edit a task that are assigned to that work group. So here, you've got permission to edit all tasks, group owner and moderators. So you can change this as you wish. So if you want all group members to be able to edit tasks within that work group, you can do that. So you've got these different permissions, and depending on what is set here will depend on who can edit the tasks within that work group.
So we've had another question on YouTube, just following up on that leave approval that Danielle went through. Is there a place to store the number of holiday days somebody has? So on the cloud system, it's not possible, but we do have a plugin which is available with the on-premise edition, where you can assign a number of holiday days for each user in the system. And that can then be used so you can see how many cumulative holidays that user has took throughout the year, and they can then see their remaining balance of holidays as well. So if you are interested in that, please email sales@interface.com and we can be in touch and provide more details about that customization that we can provide for you.
Okay, I think we've answered all the questions that have come in on YouTube and the questions that have come in during the week. If you have got any more that you want to quickly pop into the YouTube chat, then please do. And if you have anything that you think of after this, just drop us an email and we'll be able to get back to you on that, okay?
Okay, so we'll just put up our details again, just so you can see those. As I say, sales@interface.com if you would like to get in touch with us.
Okay, we can't see that any other questions are coming in, so like we say, if you do think of anything, please let us know and we'll be able to assist you. And please tune in again next week at the same time.
Yeah. Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.